As many of you know, the new NWA biopic Straight Outta Compton is hitting theaters on August 14th. Last night in Hollywood, a number of film journalists were invited to watch a screening of the film, including our own John Campea. So, John, we all want to know, what did you think of Straight Outta Compton?
Yeah, last night, myself, Dennis, Wendy, we went to go see Straight Outta Compton. I've been really very curious about the movie and really quite excited about it. Here's the thing. Overall, I enjoyed the film, and it's one of the films. It's a film I recommend people go see. I'm going to say, if people ask me, should I go see Straight Outta Compton? I'm going to say, yes, you should, because I think you're going to enjoy it, and I think you're going to get something out of it. That's the overall general thing. But I didn't love the film, and I wanted to love the film, and especially because of this. The first, not quite full 2 acts, but like I'd say maybe the first 2 acts, like the first 60 to 65% of the movie. I remember I was sitting in my seat in the theater watching it, and I remember thinking, holy crap, this is going to be one of my, if not totally my favorite film of the year, it's going to end up being in my top 5. This is going to end up being in my top 5 favorite films of the year. The director, F. Gary Gray, he approached this film, and especially the first 2 acts, with what I call an absolute laser focus. I mean, he just starts to develop this recipe of bringing these characters together, introducing us to them in a very nicely paced way so that we feel like it doesn't feel staggered. It just feels like this really incredible pace. We get to know these guys. We get to like simmer in it a little bit, seeing the dynamics of the relationship come together, how they get this whole thing started, the introduction of the Paul Giamatti character, how everything starts to unfold and things start to blow up, become big, some of the major key incidents that led to them being who they are and all this kind of stuff. It was just a magnificent biopic kind of a film for the first time. The music was great. A lot of the performances, I just brought up the IMDb page here too. A lot of the performances were just incredible. Corey Hawkins, who played Dr. Dre especially, was fantastic in it. And also Jason Mitchell, who played Eazy-E. These 2 guys really stood out to me. They were just incredible. And then getting into the story about how things started to then come apart. And, the division off, and when Ice Cube left and why he left and all that kind of stuff, it was just being conducted masterfully. I just was eating it all up. The problem is that after the first 2 acts, once you get past the first 60, 65% of the movie, it's almost like F. Gary Gray, the director of the film, left and some other guy came in to direct, because it felt like a totally different movie from that point on. If I had to guess, if I had to give a score, I'd say the first 2/3 of the movie, I would give like a 9.5 out of 10. The last act of the movie, the last third of the movie, last 30, 40% of the movie, maybe a 4. Because what was so brilliant about the first part of the movie, laser focus, really getting to know these characters, taking time on the things you needed to take time on, rushing past the things that didn't need a lot of time wasted on them, that just all went out the window. Suddenly they're trying to cover 85 different things. Whereas in the movie, they take like 20 to 30 minutes showing this slow evolution of the parting of the ways between the guys. And then in the third act of the movie, a 30-second scene. Hey man, let's make up. Okay, hug. And it's done. And it's like, what is this? And then they start throwing like some scenes with Snoop Dogg where it's like, there was no purpose. Other than, hey, you know what? People like Snoop Dogg, so let's just put him in. And it wasn't actually Snoop Dogg. It was an actor portraying Snoop Dogg, who did an incredible Snoop Dogg imitation, by the way. Anyway, then they have scenes, let's put people like Tupac. Let's throw in a scene with Tupac, even though it served the story no way, shape, or form. And it just started becoming random collections of scenes. I was really torn by it, because it's like, these are 2 completely different films. What happened and where did this thing go? But like I said, that first 2 acts are so brilliant and so good. It doesn't matter how bad the last act of the film is. This is a film worth watching, if for nothing else, in those first 2 scenes, especially what I call the climax scene of what sort of should have been the last scene of the movie. And it was only about a little more than halfway through, which was that infamous concert in Detroit. When they got arrested and stuff like that. I mean, that would have been a great climax to the movie, as a matter of fact. The other problem I had with the film, though, too, is Dennis and I talk about this quite a bit. Like whether they're talking about doing like a Walt Disney biopic or a Martin Luther King biopic, you know, sometimes you get concerned about, well, who's in charge? Because are they just going to, if they do a Walt Disney thing, does members of the Disney family or members of the Disney Corporation have final say over what you can and can't? Because are they going to sugarcoat it? Or are they going to give us a true look at the life? This movie is so sugar-coated, you're going to walk out with cavities. Like it is so sugar-coated. Everybody except for Suge Knight and the Paul Giamatti character are made out to look like warrior poets. I mean, everything is so crisp and clean. And one of the things I was really fascinated to see was, you know, for those of you who follow NWA at all, you know the whole incident with Dee Barnes, the female reporter who did an interview with Ice Cube after he left NWA. NWA felt like that television interview portrayed them in a negative light, and several months later, Dr. Dre ran into her at a party and proceeded to beat the living F out of her, while his bodyguards held people off because as retaliation for that. I was afraid they were going to like sugarcoat that incident. They just didn't address it at all. I mean, they took that out of the movie entirely. And it's like, and Dre comes across in the movie like this pacifist kid who's, you know, he sees Suge Knight, committing violence. He's like, no, he's horrified by violence. And it's like, that's not Dr. Dre. And that is not what is in this. And it's like, the whole movie is just extremely heavily sugar-coated to make everybody look as great as possible. And that's what you're going to get when members of the NWA are the guys producing the biopic of NWA. That's what you're going to get. Still, despite the heavy sugarcoating and despite the fact that I feel like the film, I really think F. Gary Gray left. I really do. I honestly think somebody else came in and directed the last half of that film because that was a different dude. Despite that stuff, like I said, the first hour and a half of this movie are so good that it glosses over everything else. It's something to see. My overall score for it is going to be 7 out of 10.
Right on. Question for you.
Yeah.
Now, I remember on Movie Talk, maybe a year ago when we started talking about this movie, you had you were hesitant and almost a little, I think we might have a rant about it too, about Ice Cube's son. How did he do in the movie?
All right. So here's what I'll say. A lot of the performances were great in this. I thought going into it, as long as Ice Cube's kid who's playing Ice Cube doesn't distract from the movie, it'll be fine. And he certainly does not distract from the movie. And as a matter of fact, I'll go as far as say he added to the movie. Would it have been better if they went out and got a real actor to do it? I think it would have been better. But what they did a lot with him, and this is what a good director like F. Gary Gray will do, they utilize him in ways that would make him most effective. So I was joking about it, but it's true. The greatest strength that he brought to the role was, holy crap, does he look like his dad? I mean, that's his greatest strength. So a lot of what they did was they had him in a lot of scenes, almost every scene he was in, do his dad's signature snarl with a tilted head.
Yeah.
I can't do it. I can't do it at all. That iconic look that Ice Cube gives, he just had him doing that a lot, right? And they didn't give that character, say, the emotional range that Dr. Dre's character had, that Eazy-E's character had, that the Paul Giamatti character had. They kept him more limited, but that was a good thing because he actually was able to then be more effective. So since they did that and he looked so much like his dad and they kept it fairly simple, it worked. It really did. It worked. But I still believe it should have gone to an actual actor where they could have maybe done and explored a little bit more. Right. But I have nothing bad to say about his performance. He was fine. He was absolutely fine in it.